How long is the wait? It should be like 5 minutes.
Hello, hello?
Hello!
Here, hold up. I'm finishing up some food. Give me like... Actually, screw it. Who needs to eat anyway?
Nah.
I'm ready.
Oh, he's here.
Hello.
Hello!
Hello!
I should be louder this time.
You are louder.
Yeah. Basically, the XLR cable of my microphone was faulty.
Oh.
And it has been faulty for the past 6 months.
Nice!
And
Damn.
Also, nice new profile picture.
Yeah, it's looking really good.
The only thing I would maybe suggest is crop it a bit tighter on YouTube, because it can be hard to see, but it's good. You commissioned that?
Yeah, I commissioned that.
Oh, that's awesome. What was the artist?
The artist, I can link it here. His Instagram.
Sick. You know, I don't think I've ever asked you what the Dator thing is about. Is he your favorite?
No, it's not my favorite, but it just seemed fitting for the tone of the channel. Like, I thought of this name, the Genshin scientist, and in combination with the Dottore image, it seemed fitting.
Yeah, I mean, like, the profile picture fits well with your actual appearance, you know? Especially the thick, muscular neck and everything.
Have you thought about getting an earring?
No, that earring looks cool.
Yeah. All I'm gonna say is, looking very handsome.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm sure it would be cool if we got Facecam working one day.
The internet won't allow it.
Life. Yeah, emergency guest. We got Butterfer.
Hello, everyone.
Emergency guest.
He's been doing
Yes, sir.
some really nice theory crafting, like, team presentation content on YouTube, and some of those videos have popped off.
Maybe the one that popped off isn't the one I'm most proud of, because, you know, at the end of the day, it is taking advantage of a controversial take. I do stand by everything I said, by the way, but,
Why don't
Yeah.
you TLDR it for anyone who's not familiar?
TLDR, hi everyone, my name is butterfer0808, I make Genshin Impact content. Yeah, so if you don't know, maybe it showed up in your For You page or something, but I made a video on Hyperbloom teams recently, or just Hyperbloom in general, and the fact that it is extremely overrated to be something that you force new players to play. If you want to check it out, please go ahead.
Nice.
Yeah. Hyperbat.
Did I restart the stream? Nah, we're gonna do it a little differently this time. Hyperbat!
Hyperbat.
He's right.
He's right. I think, like, the ultimate irony about the Hyperbat thing is... Why are we... you have to have Nahida at a baseline?
Yeah.
It definitely got crazy like 5 or 6 months ago, where Naida Hyperbloom was basically in everybody's mouth. Even when Haytam came out with Quick Bloom, everybody was butt chesting Nahida with Double Hydro. That it was this unbeatable team, but it was annoying.
You were gonna really get me going on this. I'm gonna do this right now because I don't know if you've heard the spiel. What is a quick bloom?
Oh, a quick bloom. What I define a quick bloom team is a team where you get substantial quicken uptime as well as the hyper blooms.
All right. Are you familiar with? 1 second. Give me 1 moment to set this up. All right. Are you familiar with this team? I'm gonna send you a picture.
Okay.
What is this team then?
Oh.
That's quick bloom.
This is Quick Bloom. Why does a 1 unit difference make a substantially different team? It's the same team with a different unit. It's the same. There's no. In my opinion, is there's not really such a thing as a Quick Bloom team. It's a Hyper Bloom team with either double Dendro or double Electro or double Hydro. Like, that is it. They are all Hyper Bloom.
I'm the least restrictive person ever with Genshin names. I just go off what people say. I just try to fit in the mold.
Okay.
I hate all the Jeff team names because I don't know what the fuck they are.
I've had a whole spiel about this for the last couple of days. The name means nothing, and it just creates confusion and like breeds misinformation.
Yeah, that is true. I think we need to start, dumbing down the naming a little bit here. We can't be cooking too hard, No matter how good a dish is, if you cook it too much, it will eventually, burn up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the specific... I see a comment, Monopyro changes into vape if you had a Hydro unit. That does change how your units are built. This does not. You always are going to be building Fischl for Aggravate. You're always going to be building Nihida for Spread. You're always going to be building your Hyperbloom trigger to trigger Hyperblooms.
Yeah.
If your Hyperbloom trigger is also triggering Aggravate, their build is also still for Aggravate. So the Quick Bloom, trying to make up a Quick Bloom distinction is unhelpful, in my opinion. That's my rant. I'm sorry if you've never heard it before, TGS, but
It's fine.
Okay.
I know that the argument we're going to talk about here today is also something you're very heated about, the meta thing.
Oh, are we doing this?
So,
okay.
Oh,
yeah. You're just hitting up right now.
Yes.
I'm excited.
Why don't you start then?
Mm-hmm. So, the topic is meta, but we want to talk about what meta is in Genshin in general, or the current meta. What are we talking about?
I'm leaving it to you to introduce the conversation.
Okay.
And I'm excited.
So, do you think there is a meta in Genshin that can be defined in a general sense, regardless of the base of the current lineups? Like, is there a top ranking of units that you can just...
How are you defining meta?
Meta to me is... it depends hugely on the current Abyss lineups. Like, there is a meta for each Abyss lineup, I would say.
Okay, but how are you defining meta?
The units that can clear the current Abyss lineup the easiest, in the most comfortable way.
Okay.
In a general sense, like for the standard player at a standard investment level, the units that can clear it the best, be it the fastest, or I don't know, in the most comfortable way.
Okay, so here's the first.
Like
here's like I'm gonna get at the big problem here. I'll probably explain more about this later. What does the standard account look like? Can you define it?
I would exclude. I would probably include something that the majority can have. So no constellations. Probably. Yes, I will stop at signature weapons like for the hyper carries, for the carries. But yeah, I would look at the units at this investment level I stated, and
okay, so in your opinion,
which teams or which units can clear the current Abyss lineup the best.
So for the sake of the conversation, are we going to say that it's like theory crafting standards, like those artifact levels, which is 220 CV?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not necessarily, because no matter who you are going to invest more into some units on your account than others. So I think it's fair to assume like a DPS character that you actually pulled for, you'd probably invest a little bit more into.
Well, that's the thing. The most effective way to clear Abyss, or the easiest way to clear Abyss, differs by account, differs by the banners you've pulled on, differs by the primo gems you've spent, the resin you've put into specific characters. That is kind of what I was getting at. The idea of a meta is something that is basically enforced by popularity, more so than effectiveness.
Yeah. I mean, can I say something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking is basically, meta shouldn't be about like starting from scratch, you know? Because as you said, different banners, well, whichever one's on banner, kind of dictates like what characters you should pull for to clear as fast as possible. Meta should be about just using units you already have, or no, not even using units you already have, but just like using a unit you pick or using a set of units you pick, and just the best way to get these specific set of units or the units you like, building a team around them and getting them to clear in the best way possible. Now, obviously, once you've been playing for long enough, you've had enough units, or enough units have been on banner for you to pull. There is, I guess, an objective difference between certain teams, certain units, on how fast they clear at the end of the day. But how much does that actually matter is the question. Yeah, I think I've always viewed meta as, well, okay, obviously there are outliers. Some units are objectively shit, so let's exclude them from that. The units that aren't objectively shit, the meta to me is...
Are you gonna throw shade?
How to make them, just how to use them to clear in the most effective way possible, in the most clean, most easy, perhaps most satisfying way possible. That's my 2 cents. I don't know.
Yeah, I also like, so what I do a lot with theory crafting is I focus on optimal ways to play a specific character or teams around a specific character. That's what I care more for than my character is better than your character PvP. I don't know if you have a perspective on that.
Yeah, obviously when it comes to speedrunning, for each abyss, each chamber, there will objectively be a character that clears faster than someone else at a certain investment level. But,
the interesting thing about that for speedrunning is I think that's necessarily entirely true. A lot of times people do speedrunning, and they only speedrun with one or two, maybe two at most characters. Maybe, have you seen something different, TGS?
Sorry, what?
Speedrunners, they only run with one or two characters. They don't run with every single character.
Yeah, they pick characters they like a lot,
Yep.
and they try to maximize their potential. For example, my good friend Shafthead Tilt, my Italian friend, speedruns a lot with Yoimiya, who isn't the strongest character, but he likes her a lot. And
once upon a time, he used to simp Tartaglia.
Based.
Yeah, and I agree with you that I also theorycraft the same. I don't theorycraft with meta in mind. Like, if this character isn't the strongest for this team, then let's discard this team. I always try to theorycraft to maximize the potential of the character I'm theorycrafting. But meta is more in the minds of, I guess, the average community than theorycrafters, although there is some discussion like that in theorycrafting circles as well. But rarely from the people who actually theorycraft, in my experience.
So, you might disagree with what I'm about to say, but my experience is, like, you talk about the standard, like, a community idea, or around theory crafting or around speedrunning. What people's perception of meta is
they definitely
cherry. I'm saying it's very much something that is cherry picked by whatever their opinion is. So if their favorite unit is good for speedrunning, they will say speedrunning is how you determine meta. If their favorite character is Zhongli, they'll talk about some bullshit user metric or usage rating, or they'll talk about comfort as being meta.
My favorite is when they bring coast into discussions. Like the coast categories, coast and coast.
That's a lot of the speedrunning, like mind.
Those made-up coast that categories that, like, they're just good in their own, in their own competition. Like, they shouldn't be used as general comparison for characters, for sure.
Yeah.
Man, I'm a lot of hot takes from today.
I'm familiar with that, and it's frustrating when the dialogue gets to that point, and because the game is so varied that people are going to approach it in different ways, and especially when people bring up something as specific and unfamiliar as speedruns, that is with results that are only attainable to very specific people, because let's be real, only 0.01% of the community actually speedruns. It's definitely unreliable.
Well, regarding cost, I was going to say the problem I always have with some people referring to it as cost and saying this team is cheaper than this team. Look at the speed run time. Is one, it's completely bullshit because 4 stars are expensive. It's two, it's completely bullshit because resin is money. Resin is artifacts. You can have a 4-cost team, and you might need to max refresh just to be competitive.
Constellation 6 Ferrets and 0 cost. Constellation 6 Ferrets and 0 cost.
Well,
yeah.
At least Farzone's always on Wanderer banners. So maybe that could be a given. I don't really care in that example.
Wait, does that mean R5, what is it called? R5 Sacrificial Jade or R5 Fjords also count as 0 cost?
I don't know. I think they do, yes. I think yes, they do. Cheap and low investment teams, yeah. Like, cheap and low investment teams, it's not something that's it's defined well enough to comment on and, like, evaluate objectively, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, the funny thing is, I'm sure you've looked at Sacrificial Jade on Nivulet for when it's R5 with Farina, right?
Yeah.
I believe the difference between that and Eternal Flow is 0.2%.
Yeah, and Jade is...
It is...
permanent weapon.
It is an absurd
everlasting weapon.
It's so good. I love Sacrificial Jade. It feels like a mistake.
Literally evergreen in gaming and aesthetic. But yeah, do you think meta is easier to define in terms of characters or teams? Like,
I don't agree with trying to define meta at all.
Yeah, but
I think if you were gonna do it, I would say like the meta for blank on-field DPS is this team.
Okay.
I think that's actually a good idea. I think meta is for building teams for a specific character, and I think also building teams for a specific account. Every account has a different meta because of the units you have, 4 stars and 5 stars, and when you start playing.
Like if someone was to play Alhaitham, I would say, hey, the meta for Alhaitham right now is to play double Dendro and an Electro character in your team. Your last character can either be another Electro or a Hydro.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting way to look at it. Definitely healthier, probably, because it allows people who actually like the character to engage in conversations that are more resourceful for him. Like, what's the meta for this character in terms of builds, in terms of teams? That's a nice way to look at it.
Yeah. Meta for Nivulet right now is to play Farina. Meta for Tartaglia is Xiangling Kazuha Bennett.
Oh wow, new team?
Wow.
New team?
New team just dropped. New team just dropped.
What do you want to name it?
Never heard of it.
Let's call it interracial.
Sounds a little bit on the edge for that one. How about something a little bit more calm, a little bit more rolls off the tongue better.
I got this one. Yeah. Kazuha National.
Actually,
no.
That makes sense. There's Sucrose National. It's only natural. We call the other one Kazuha National. Yeah, too bad child can't quad vape his E.
Alright, what do you think about worldwide? You can triple vape. You vape the E skill, you can vape an N1, you vape melee burst, and you vape the Riptide Blast.
Yeah.
That is a quadruple vape.
Not as good as Saxort Singcho though.
What do you mean?
Way more front-loaded damage, right? Because you can vape 4 hits.
What's a weapon?
What's a weapon?
Now, this team's got all different region characters. Can we call it international?
Yeah.
True. Well, okay, I think I know the history behind the joke for international. One, there's two origins of the name. There's the Chinese one, which is Wanda, which is the first character from Tartaglia and Kazuha's name, which is also a reference to an international hotel chain in China.
Yep.
But the English origin of the name is actually different. The joke about national, or the thing about nationals, whenever someone was recommended national, they were always confused. Wait, two of these characters are from Mondstadt. How can it be national? These characters are not all from one region. These characters.
So I have a question.
When Kazuha released, we had 4 regions. Kazuha was the first Inazuman character. Tartaglia is still the only Shinejinayan character. At the time, that was the only way you could make a team with 4 different regions in it. So it's international. It was the joke.
I have a question for you, Du.
Yeah.
If meta can be seen on a character-by-character basis, can power creep be seen in the same light, like in the same view?
Absolutely.
Like,
the way I look at power creep
based on what improves for a specific character.
So power creep is a interesting conversation. So over time, damage goes up in Genshin. That is, do we agree on that?
Yeah,
Team DPS today is much higher than it was a year ago. Even if a lot of the characters are the same, they add new sets, they add new weapons, they add new support characters that buff things up. And in my opinion, that is a form of power creep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which kind of relates to our current banner. Would you call Furina a power creep character?
For certain types of teams, yes. Like, if you look at Double Hydro,
Yeah.
That's probably power creep of the previous Double Hydro.
Yeah. I think I probably agree with that. Furina's really interesting because she has this drawback where she changes your team building priority, but she gives you enough damage to make up for it.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting, and I hope we see a bit more of that in the future.
Wait, correct me if I'm wrong, but in all the teams where Xingqiu was previously superior to Yelan due to his longer uptime, like, say, Sino teams, for example, is Furina better in all of those teams now, even considering needing to use a healer?
Well, the Sino and Hatham teams were using healers anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to look at healerless teams if you wanted that kind of comparison.
Yeah.
And at that point, what is a modern healerless team?
I think the question is if you ignore the buff Furina provides, so without a healer, and by losing the elemental skill stack, since she has longer uptime, is she better than Xingqiu even without healer? Is that the question?
Yeah, so basically, is, I guess, the pinnacle of single Hydro teams just Furina now?
You lose a lot of application compared to Xingqiu for sure.
You lose.
I would say
I was about to say quick bloom, hyper bloom.
I would expect Furina to be a downgrade for the team I was talking about earlier if you were playing healerless. So if you were that guy who uses the Raiden as a Hyperloom trigger, I would expect Xingqiu to be better here than Furina.
Same.
Well, yeah, because you're... Wait, hold up. Wait a minute. So you're saying that using Raiden in a team like this is actually a notable damage increase over Shinobu?
That's not quite what I was saying. I was saying if you were insistent on playing Raiden, because some people just do not like Shinobu.
Okay, let's ignore that. So let's use Raiden for Xingqiu and use Shinobu for Furina.
Yes.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. A lot of people just fundamentally do disagree with using Shinobu. It's not something I understand, and it's something I very much rebel against.
Yeah, okay, that's just a shit take though. Like, we don't really need to take it into consideration.
I think at some point you do have to.
I suppose. So I guess my question would be, in a team like this, Double Electro Hyper Bloom, would Xingqiu plus Raiden still be superior to Karina plus Shinobu?
I haven't seen enough to comment.
I see.
I haven't done enough calcs.
Yeah, it's tricky. Shinobu with Furina is tricky. I guess the advantage Raiden has over a character like Shinobu is the longer uptime that, in practice, if you play in a certain way, I've seen it in speedruns, but it can bring advantages because it just, from a rotation standpoint, having this full electro uptime for the entirety of it can come in handy. But for general play, Shinobu is probably the more reasonable choice.
If there was gonna be, so Shinobu is a healer. If you were gonna, ideally people have at least one defensive option in their teams. If that's how I would feel comfortable recommending them, at least. Or characters with a lot of EHP. Xingqiu helps with that, but he's not everything, especially for squishy characters like Nahida.
Yeah.
So if they were gonna, I think there is room for an off-field Hyper Bloom trigger that is more offensively advantageous than Raiden. That would maybe make me a bit more apprehensive about recommending Shinobu every time over Raiden.
Yeah.
So what I would mean by that is, I mean a character who triggers Hyper Blooms and has really good personal damage, / also is good with aggravate damage. So like an off-field Sino. An off-field... I want an off-field Sino. An off-field Sino would sell me on, yeah, this is really the offensive Hyper Bloom trigger you should be using.
It kind of goes without saying. Like, you're describing a very strong character.
Yeah.
But I am saying that that's kind of what it would take for me to make that recommendation on a personal level.
Yeah. And I guess something I would say to that is, okay, I don't really want to shit on Raiden all that much, because I do appreciate the fact that you don't need to switch back into her at all for like 25 seconds. But, yeah. I guess this is more apparent with Alhaitham. Switching back into Shinobu really isn't that difficult. You don't need to follow. She has a 15-second cooldown. You can easily desync that. And then that's something I do with Alhaitham teams, for example. Like, basically every time I play him. And uptime really isn't that much of a factor here. It's really only just the 20 damage % you get from Raiden to the burst.
It's about technicalities as well, because I've seen this speedrun where it used a Nahida on-field carry with huge investment and a Hyper Bloom core behind her, and basically the Abyss Room run lasted something like 23 or 24 seconds, and Raiden Elemental skill lasted for the entirety of it, so there the uptime it has really came in handy for that specific type of run, but it's a technicality. It's not something you can apply to general gameplay.
Wait, I remember that one. I think it was like when Alhaitham first came out. It's 3.5. It's
the one where they book the swap cooldown so they get better procs.
I don't think that run did. The specific run TGS is talking about used, I think, Nahida, C2 Nahida, Raiden, Xingqiu, and Fischl. And it was against the 4 rune guards on chamber 1 and then the 2 concentrated.
Yes.
Neat.
That's one.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, that was a cool run, by the way.
Very cool theme. Nahida was dealing a shit ton of damage, man.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think. Have you played Hyper Bloom teams with Furina? I think Double Dendro or Double Electro just are the way. I have not had as much success with Double Hydro Hyper Bloom for Furina.
I played Sino with Furina.
Okay.
Sino Double Dendro.
Okay, how'd it go?
It's better. it doesn't fix the issues I guess Sino has, but it is better in a single against a single opponent, like when the danger is actually up, and then when the opponent dies, it is also better compared to the previous version of Sino teams because Furina is dealing more damage, is buffing him for longer, of course.
Yep.
And so, but you still lose a lot of damage, enough damage to feel a bit bad about the team at that point. But it is better, just not a complete change for Sino in terms of outlook.
Maybe we should talk about Sino. He is about to be on banner. Sino and Ayato.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have thoughts? You just got talked about Sino. Do you have any thoughts on Ayato? I'd love to hear them.
Ayato.
Yes.
Yeah, I have some
Ayato, Kamisato.
I have some thoughts. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. To me, Ayato is a decent beginner pool. Decent. Because pulling for him just opens up for many different teams and is very flexible in his Hydro application. It can be on fielder for many teams. It can be a bloom enabler with the elemental burst that has very large AoE and also on field. So if you pull for Ayato, you just open up basically most teams in the game because Hydra is just that good. But I don't think it's a pull that makes a lot of sense if you have an account that is already pretty good, I guess.
Because so
I don't.
I have a little bit of a different opinion on Ayato. He offers unideal role consolidation for a damage dealer who doesn't do much damage.
I think Ayato is an amazing character if you don't care about personal damage or you don't care about numbers. You just want to see as much reactions as possible, and that's what you enjoy.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. So when I talk about role consolidation, I mean like the cost opportunity of using a healer or like having a different on-field DPS. So in the event of Hyperbloom, that could be either having Nahida on field or I guess Alhaitham. For teams where Ido is solo Hydro, you have an opportunity of not having a healer, where you would be kind of comparing Ido and Kokomi.
Mm-hmm.
And what drawbacks would you need to make for Ido to get the same comfort that you do with Kokomi?
Oh, chat, no. I don't think Ayato is a good character. I'm just saying that he does something that is objectively pretty useful or pretty impressive if you don't care about damage.
If you wanted to talk about the idea of the on-field Hydro character, you get to talk about Nivila, who laps Ayato's damage.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, the issue is that there are just so many good Hydro units. Like,
yeah.
So many. Like, the element is so saturated at this point. They did something different with Nubilet and Furina, but before they introduced these new aspects, I felt like the element was at full capacity. Like, there was nothing new they could introduce without switching it up entirely, and that's sort of what they've done with Fontaine, kind of. So Ayato suffered from that.
I think I just kind of have to stand by Ayato's character with unideal role consolidation. And that's his biggest issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's my take. Regarding Sino is really interesting because he's like a dying breed of DPS character. The idea of this long, continuous field time character we have seen like very briefly. We got Xiao in version 1.3, arguably Ito, and then Sino.
I bet you that if it released in 2023, it would be completely different. Like they just abandoned that idea this year. They're so flexible, the carries they're putting out now.
Yeah, we're also just getting non-continuous field time DPS characters in Nivilet, Linny, Alhaitham. The only exception to that recently has been Riesli.
Yeah. And I remember when it was the Theorycrafting period of Sino, and it was probably one of the characters that people were the most confused about out of any beta because they just couldn't find the perfect way to play him. It was just too so odd to slot into teams and because of buff uptime. And then it kind of found a home in Hyperbloom, but it's a team that is still ever improving. And the main reason for that is that Sino is a character that, compared to the first Hyperbloom iterations he had, he found better teammates in terms of uptime and buffing for his field time. And at release, he wasn't quite complete.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't complete on release. I find Aggravate Sino a bit underrated today. There's a bit of a rotation intricacy that you can do with Fischl, where her E-skill cooldown is unrelated to her burst. So you can summon Oz twice and like end up with like 1 3/4 Oz's per rotation. Or like 1.5 Oz's.
Underrated.
So as long as you're able to like understand how to do that, you can get better performance out of Sino Aggravate than usual.
Yeah. But when was it not underrated? I say underrated today, but I feel like it was always underrated.
Well,
yeah,
it
was kind of.
I wouldn't necessarily say it was underrated back when people didn't know about this or didn't know to do this kind of trick, because that certainly does help a lot with DPS.
I feel like many people still don't know to this day, actually. Because most Sino mains point immediately to Hyperbloom when it comes to Sino, and just say completely ignore Aggravate. It's not for Sino. And in a way, I can understand that from a concept standpoint, but it can work if you put some thoughts and work into it with Kazuha, Fischl. If you play with Zhongli, it feels miserable. It feels horrible.
Baizhu, everyone talks about how Nahe though is good for Sino. No, it's Baizhu. No, Kono Baizhu da.
Yeah, Baizhu, Fischl, Kazuha, Sino. I like that team.
Yeah. Or
I really feel like things like re-upping Fischl's E skill, re-upping Shinobu's E skill, doing 2 Yelan E's per rotation. Those are things we need to talk about more, and something that we want to become more default, because I'm not going to continue with that. Go on.
And then regarding, I guess I could talk about problems with Sino. It's primarily the energy dependency.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to play solo Electro and swap off early. I end up running like 140 ER on 4TF for the double Dendro comps for Hyperbloom, and dude, sometimes it still feels bad.
The issue I had with the energy requirements in double Dendro is that if you're not able to unleash the exact amount of elemental skills you need to recover the energy you need with Sino, then it feels bad. Then it definitely feels bad. And that happens when the opponents die and you have to go to the other side of the room, for example, to hit the other opponents. So you physically can't deal the right amount of elemental skills to recover the energy. And if you can't, it's hard for you to somehow recover it in time by the time you should use the burst in the next rotation.
It is something you kind of can forcibly recover from. At least he does generate particles in his burst, and outside of his burst, he has bonus particle generation. It's 3 particles outside of his burst on the 8-second cooldown, which is nice.
Yeah, but it has longer cooldown.
Yeah, but it's fine, because you can start the chamber with it, you do your rotation, you do an E-skill before his burst. That's 6 particles you can kind of cheat out.
Mm-hmm.
There's a somewhat an ability to recover, but it can feel really bad and unfairly punishing, especially when you're short a little bit of damage at the end of the chamber, because you can't exactly trigger Hyper Blooms without using his burst. You can cope a little bit, but it's kind of rough.
I feel like he's the kind of character you overinvest in with energy recharge to be safe. I feel the same with Ito, for example, or even Xiao. So the characters that have long field time that you mentioned. yeah, these characters, I think that you definitely want to invest 10 or 15 more energy recharge than you theoretically need to be safe.
I actually feel the same way about Farina.
Yeah.
That was a good segue.
Yeah,
very good
turret particle gen. That kind of thing where your particles aren't necessarily always guaranteed, especially as you clear the content. I find myself, like, if I'm going to lowball energy, I'm going to do it on characters who can quickly get energy at the start of a rotation.
Yeah, I mean, hearing a lot of people say, oh, you don't need that much energy recharge on Farina. Even theory crafters that say, oh, why are you putting that much energy recharge of Farina? But some people just don't understand that with turrets, it's not that clear. The amount of particles you're going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. I do find that there are chambers where I would want to use Farina's burst kind of later, almost towards the end, and then for next chamber I just don't have it, and it's a little bit awkward.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did your polls go, by the way?
As of a few days ago, I have a C6 Chi-Chi. I don't have a single gene, by the way.
Oh, congrats.
I do kind of want Jean, actually. I think she's cute. And also more useful than the other standard characters.
For now.
But, yeah. But hey, I did win most of my 50-50s. I got the C6 Farina that I wanted.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm overall fairly happy.
Farina's Constellation 0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she's good anyway.
I'll send you the Twitter post I made when I talked about why I didn't want to buy constellations for Farina. Send you in the Discord chat.
Do you want to TLDR it? You said it was a Twitter post.
No, it's just a sentence.
Just a sentence.
Waiting.
Oh,
you got clothes? Nice!
Honestly, I've decided to refrain from Constellation, from buying Constellation to Farina to buy some cool clothes. And I did.
You know what? That's correct.
Yeah.
Life before gambling.
Yeah.
Speaking of irresponsible spending, I think that OLED Steam Deck is calling my name.
Oh.
We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, we know if on stream Jason shows up with less clothes than usual.
No shirt. Well, you know how.
So to go back.
You were saying. Please go.
To go back to what we were talking about, when did you feel like it was like a character release or a change they made that you felt, oh, this is power creep? What's the most evident moment of this in your Genshin experience?
We got Emblem, we got the Catch, we got Merchandise Hunter. Like, these are sets that are significantly better than anything that's that had come before or been available before. Mm-hmm. That is a very certain way to make the damage go up and keep you on the treadmill chasing damage.
Yeah. Jason, I have a question for you, actually.
Sure.
Yeah, I know you really dislike comparing different characters in terms of like power creep. At what point are you okay with saying that, yeah, okay, this new 5-star is a power creep over a previous 5-star? Like, how would you look at Linny and Klee, for example?
When I look at Linny and Klee, I would talk about the gameplay differences and say Linny has a bit more drawbacks, but if you're able to overcome them, primarily being a charge attack bow character, you're able to get more damage. By design, Linny kind of has to do more damage to be even considered useful.
By the way, are they now competing at who has the best Farina front wave team? Like this new character?
No, Linny's is definitively better.
Okay.
I've
seen something about it.
I have the Linny.
I need to calculate that.
I have the Linny teams at 80k DPS.
80k.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I saw. Yeah, because you can retain the pyro application on opponents and also front wave with Furina. So
he also just
I think in single target it's extremely strong.
Yeah, he also just does more damage than Clay.
But do you feel like it's definitely better than the Monopyro with Kazuha in all situations?
In all situations? Well, it's hard to say in all situations. I think generally, yeah, because it's so much more damage. It's enough more damage for me to say, yeah, this is the one.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that in large AoE situations, Kazuha still pulls a lot of weight, but when you're facing just 2 or 3 enemies or a boss, like it looks very strong.
Yeah.
I think the thing with large AoE is that they're never really the challenging chambers as long as you have a way to deal with it. It's mostly the DPS checks on 1 to 4 enemies that really matter in terms of building teams, in my opinion. Yeah.
So yeah, what you're saying is that, like, for example, Kazuha against 4 enemies is doing what 600,000 damage per rotation at a standard investment. So you think that should be valued more in the?
Huh?
Wait, what?
Maybe I didn't understand the question.
Are you talking about EC Kazuha or Aggravate Kazuha?
No, in the total damage in the rotation against all the opponents, not against a single target.
How many?
Like 5 or 6.
Oh, okay, then whatever.
I see what you're saying. So basically, what I'm getting at is that, like, as long as you have a Kazuha, like the quote-unquote mobbing chambers or big AoE chambers, they shouldn't really be what you focus on because you have a way to just deal with it. What's more important for team building is just meeting DPS checks against like less tankier enemies. That's what really matters, in my opinion.
My argument about that has always been single target damage is more consistent and more important. The way they balance Abyss is single target HP.
As long as you aren't actually single target locked into like,
not gonna have a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I do think that is even reflected in people's preference of characters. Very much like, characters like Yelan, Furina, like these are Hyperbloom. These are very popular things. These are, and they're definitively like primarily single target oriented.
Yeah, I think AoE is a yes or no question, and then single target.
Most of the off-field damage in the game is single target.
Yeah, exactly.
Single target oriented.
Yeah, single target oriented.
There is a difference, and I kind of feel I need to distinguish it.
Yeah, it's fair. Single target oriented.
Yeah, as I was saying, to me, AoE is a yes or no question. Are you able to deal with it? And then the real consideration comes with like single target or single target oriented DPS checks.
Mostly with most characters, even if they have technical AoE, if they don't have the right way to group opponents or the right characters to group opponents, I feel like you don't really feel the difference compared to characters that have less AoE from a technical sense.
Yeah, exactly.
The difference will eventually manifest itself in gameplay from someone who between someone who has 0 AoE and someone who has, let's say, 2 meters of AoE.
Yeah, exactly. I think what TGS was referring to is something like a Hyperbloom is a little bit of a bad
Hyperbloom
example.
is 1 meter AoE.
Yoimiya
has the AoE of a tenth of a Hyperbloom and is 0.1 meters.
Yeah, I think what TGS was getting at was, like, for example, a Risley punch is not necessarily, or the fact that it's smaller AoE than a Xiao plunge doesn't necessarily matter, right?
Oh, if it was in comment to like the size of your AoE doesn't matter if the enemies aren't grouped?
Well, Xiao is maybe a bit extreme because I feel like unless the opponents are just spread out from one on one side, the other on the other, for example, the current Abyss, Pyro, whatever they're called, in the third room of the current Abyss, like Xiao can hit 2 or 3 or 4 opponents pretty consistently. But maybe.
The thing about AoE is your AoE is almost always never absolute.
Yeah, exactly.
Your Xiao is not going to consistently hit every enemy in the chamber. In fact, he's very likely to only hit 1 or 2 out of 5 in most cases.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is why DPS checks are presented single target, or in terms of single target HP, because I think MiHoYo knows that. If you're dependent on AoE to meet a DPS check, you kind of have a problem.
Yeah, unless your name is Neuvillette, in which case you can just turn off the DPI and spin.
It can still be a bit of a problem if you need AoE to meet your DPS check to clear. It's not something you want to have to deal with. Ideally.
I just think it's funny. It's
it is funny. I love it.
Well, while they do that, MiHoYo does that. They definitely structure some rooms in a way that where you not need, but you really benefit from having this kind of AoE opportunities with Kazuha or a specific AoE character.
Something I would say is, because of how Kazuha groups enemies, those AoE opportunities exist for every character as long as they have the capability to hit more than one enemy.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like Wriothesley is hitting every enemy if like they're frozen and bunched up by Kazuha.
No.
Yeah, I like Wriothesley with Kazuha a lot.
Yeah.
The only awkward time is sometimes, like specifically Last of Us, the Fatui, the debt collectors. I don't remember the exact name, but you know what I'm talking about. The teleporting women with the masks and the pants. They get frozen in midair and Risley cannot hit them. And it's just bro, what the fuck am I supposed to do? The wind agents, yes.
Man, I guess we really are just shitting on Yoimiya, huh? None of these applied to her.
There is value in being a ranged character, though, which can kind of be like a pseudo AoE. There's not much I can say about Yoimiya.
Yes, but when I play Kazuha with Yoimiya, specifically Yoimiya Hyper with Bennett, Yelan, and Kazuha, the AoE damage that Kazuha deals.
Yeah.
You're gonna get me going again!
Be failed.
What does hyper mean?
Hyper means dealing most of the team damage. Don't annoy me, just turn.
Okay, what is the difference? Okay,
listen. I know exactly what you're about to say. Yelan does a fuck ton of damage on that team.
No, what I was gonna say, alright, here's a question for you from a few days ago in my chat. Alright, I want to play Raiden Hyper. Is Farina an upgrade to Sara for Raiden Hyper? The answer to that question is never, hey, if you play Farina instead of Sara, your team is no longer Raiden Hyper. You cannot call it that. Please correct yourself. Please correct.
I think it's just a naming thing, you know? Because, like...
Yeah, but Yoimiya on that team is dealing like 60 or 70% of the team damage.
Oh,
yeah, so to me that's kind of hyper damage, but I don't know.
If it's if it's a damage breakpoint, I can understand, and like in that case, I can understand relate. Like when a character is doing X amount of damage, I'm going to call them a hyper carry.
Yeah.
But I think relating it to percentage of team DPS is a fool's errand.
I think it's still useful to define it as something like such as hyper when a character is dealing a lot of damage, because then you're describing something that will improve a lot if you invest of that specific character with a signature or something similar. So
something that also just fundamentally does more damage also benefits just as much from that kind of investment, though. It's just not as much of the team DPS, but it is more damage, and the same amount more damage, if not more.
So sorry, what are you referring to specifically? I missed that.
Okay, so let's say we're talking about like a team DPS disparity between I don't know, Wanderer Hyper and Neuvillette Farina. Investing in Neuvillette is going to get you a smaller overall team DPS increase, but you're getting more damage increase overall. So that kind of hyper distinction is pointless. Because
inherent
team
deals more damage.
Yeah.
Okay. True. But I just mean it in a team sense.
Okay.
So, for example, if you have Yumiya, Yelan, and Kazuha and Bennett, it's much better to give Yumiya an investment boost compared to giving Yelan an investment boost. That's just what I mean.
Okay. In the same team.
Hyper should be. I think Hyper as a name should be used when you subjectively feel like the on-fielder is carrying. So when you see, for example, if you're playing double Hydro, you see so many blue numbers. Like you don't have the, the audacity to call the on-fielder like Hyper anymore. But if you see just a little bit of blue numbers and then you see a 6-digit orange number every so often, it feels good calling your on-fielder Hyper,
Okay, so specifically with Farina, this is a thing. Some Farina teams, some Farina double Hydro teams, characters literally do the same damage that they did in like Kazuha VV teams. So why are they suddenly not hyper carry despite doing the same amount of damage? Just by being in a better team? You understand I think it's a little silly.
I see your point.
Yeah.
But
it makes sense, especially with Farina and Yelan. It's kind of impossible to have a true hyper team. Or at least no good team is actually a hyper carry team anymore.
Very few.
Yeah. Huh, that is interesting.
I think it would make a little bit more sense if people referred to hyper carry as like a character doing X amount of personal damage. Like arbitrarily, I'll say 1 million. At that point, a character would be a hyper carry? Maybe? I don't know, man.
That's interesting. Hyper carry is when I simp, correct? Good job, Chatter. That was words of wisdom right there.
Yeah. What we're talking about before I went off on that tangent, I am sorry for getting wound up by that. But
TGS was talking about Yoimiya. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yoimiya is a single target team because the damage you get from Yoimiya and Yelan it's single target, but Kazuha does enough in AoE to make it feel better in those situations.
I think so, actually. Like, Kazuha's damage and even Yelan's E skill cannot be understated. I feel like when I play a lot of single target teams with Yelan and Kazuha in it, they kind of take care of a lot of stuff, if that makes sense.
I don't know how much of that is just you're doing so much damage, you're bypassing the checks. To the point where the AoE is kind of irrelevant.
Yoimiya Hyper, sorry. So Yoimiya...
I guess it's Yoimiya, it's not super...
Does a lot more damage than the other Yoimiya variants.
Yeah.
That's true.
It is higher damage than trying to use Genshin and Zhongli.
Yeah.
People really, really love those units. I do not understand why.
People mistakenly assume that Yunjin is the best unit to pair with Yoimiya, but that's not the case.
Can you relate to this? Every beta, I feel like I see the same people go, "Can I use Yunjin with this new character?"
Yeah.
Yunjin!
Now with Nab, yeah. Now with Nab, I'm getting that a lot.
I've seen it.
Yeah, and getting that a lot.
Yeah. No.
I actually feel every character that comes up, it's can I play Yunjin with this character? Is Yunjin finally the one?
Surprisingly.
Yes! That's another example!
I mean, it sort of makes sense. She's the normal attack buffer. I think the average casual player does associate the quote-unquote main DPS with doing normal attacks. You know, she's an energy black hole. She doesn't actually buff enough to justify doing no damage.
The problem is she doesn't have an element.
Yeah, that's true. If she was Hydro, or...
If she was Pyro.
Or Pyro. Oh, for Yoimiya, yeah, exactly.
For Yoimiya, for... Even Resleep.
Yeah.
If she was Pyro...
I know you dislike Yunjin with Wanderer. Do you feel the same about Constellation 6 Wanderer with Yunjin?
Yeah, 100%. And he doesn't do anything. It buffs like 3 norm, or not 3. It's buffs. He's doing N3 hits twice. Everything hits twice with C6. She's buffing 3 N3 combos out of 9.
But it does front load the damage a bit, I guess.
I think it front loads the damage less than someone like Karina or Yalon in the team.
Mm-hmm.
And I do, especially when they're Constellation 6, I feel like that is very much reflective of speedruns and IRL performance. You are just genuinely better off with a different character than Yunjin in most cases.
I haven't seen speedruns for Wanderer lately.
No, they all fucked up. And the Abysses have not been the kindest to Wanderer, and Xiao. I don't think that's unreasonable. We keep getting Coppelia and Coppelias who have 75% Animo resistance. And this Abyss is full of Pyro Shields on the other side.
Yeah, believe it or not, except for maybe Farazan, C6 4-stars aren't that good compared to C6 5-stars.
What do you mean C6 Xingqiu isn't better than C6 ELI?
Wait.
Well, let's move on.
Let's move on.
Maybe in Chill.
Regarding shield checks, actually, you're aware of the HP conversion, right? The shields literally have HP bars. The Abyss shields. Yeah. It is 10 times the HP of the enemy. So you are technically able to have an easier time brute forcing those shield checks, but just by doing a lot of damage.
Interesting.
It's why you'll see whale speedruns clear those shields so much faster, even though the elemental app is the same.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. You get essentially free shield damage. Just by doing a lot of damage. And it's relevant specifically for the Pyro shields, because you get 4 vapes from your Hydro characters. So having super hard-hitting Hydro characters will bust those shields right open.
Bust right open.
Bust. It's regarding the HP conversion. It's 30, right? It's 30 elemental app for the Pyro shield, or 6 million HP.
Yeah, I think it's around 30.
Yeah, it's 30 and 6 million HP, or 6 million HP.
Yeah. 6 million sounds really high.
It's 10 times the amount of HP of the Lector or the Herald.
I guess that makes sense. I remember seeing, I think it was back in 2.2 or something. Someone soloed 2 of those with a physical child. I think it was the Hydro Herald.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they're low level, obviously they have less HP. The Hydro and Cryo ones, not Cryo, the Hydro and Electro ones have less HP, because they were introduced earlier.
Oh.
Let me get the exact numbers, and let me double check. The Fire one, I know the Riptide and, the Hydro and the Electro one have the same HP as a Ruin Guard, which is 550 at talent level, or at level 100. Yeah, the Fire one has more HP, and the Cryo one does as well. He's got 700,000.
Yeah.
Power creep.
Power creep.
Power creep. Okay. We found power creep.
Power creep.
Anyway, you were saying?
Me?
What were you saying about TGS?
I wasn't saying anything, but I actually wanted to go back to that power creep thing we were talking about, because that was cut a bit abruptly. But yeah, it's interesting that you find the, I guess, power creep examples we got in artifacts. I think it makes sense because it's something basically everybody can obtain and everybody is going to experience and get advantage from. So if we're talking power creep on a game-wide sense, then it probably makes sense to look at artifacts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then when you look at characters, it's much more vague because there are so many niches and so many variables. It's just hard to say, oh, this character power creeps the other. You see that a lot from people because it's fun to shit on other characters, I guess. But
my character is better than your character. Suck it, nerd.
but if you're trying to think about it objectively, it gets much harder.
Regarding like objectively, Shenhe's release bumped Ayaka's team DPS by 10 to 15%. Yelan's release bumped characters' team DPS by 10 to 15%, sometimes 20%. Furina's release is bumping DPS by 10, 15, 20%. I don't know how you can look at that and say that isn't power creep in terms of the team slot usage.
So, for example, Shenhe power creeps Rosaria to you.
Shenhe was an overall DPS increase for Freeze teams, or cryo-related teams in general, which power crept those existing teams, yeah, because suddenly you're at a little bit of disadvantage by not having Shenhe.
Yeah, when you look at a specific team, it's much easier to say, oh, this character is power creep over the other for a specific team.
There isn't a lot of power creep in terms of like on-field main DPS characters, which is probably intentional.
Well, what would you define as a power creep for an on-field DPS character? Like, what will cause that?
A lot of times it's characters will fall out of style, or a character's best team was never this thing anyway. Let's say Aido, for example. Aido's best team was not mono hydro on-field DPS. So it's not really a big deal when they release a new hydro DPS character for that team.
When Hu Tao came out, did you feel like she power crept the look?
Yes.
You know, the funny thing is, when you do double a character's damage, yes.
She fit on his same teams and just dealt a lot more damage, and there wasn't an apparent advantage in using Diluc, so I guess that's the
advantage in using Diluc is he's available on the standard banner. Yeah. He also is much less rotationally constrictive because he can swap off. That's all I've got.
Yeah.
You know, about this rotation thing, I think Diluc actually still has potential. Like, in the same way Keqing got better because the rotations got better for her with the Dendro teams, I feel like Diluc still has some potential in that sense, because
unimaginably based.
I actually have something to say to that. Because Diluc's biggest problem is that he just doesn't have a lot of high scaling hits in his kit. So no matter how much, like, how good of a weapon you get, or how good of teammates you get, he'll never just do that much damage. With one caveat, his high plunge multiplier is actually high. So if we get a Claymore that, when used on Diluc, gives him, I don't know, like Xiao jump height or something, and then you can just continuously spam plunges, he would actually be good. Because his main problem with the motion value, or the scaling on his hits, isn't a problem anymore when his high plunge is like 3 times his E scaling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the fundamental problem with Diluc is he just doesn't have talents. He just is the first hit of his E skill 170 at T10, 176 at hit 2, 232 hit 3, N1 is 177, like etc. etc. These are dog shit talent values for how many hits he does per rotation.
Yeah.
No matter how many buffs you give this character, it's never gonna be spectacular because the base talent is terrible.
Yeah, I don't know if you tried spamming plunges on Diluc against the gravity guy from Last Abyss.
It's funny.
But he's actually, like, he's unironically kind of good.
Yeah, he's got great plunge. His plunge damage is great.
Yeah.
His plunge.
Yeah, I think it was like 440 or something.
It's 442 high plunge, 354 low plunge.
Yeah, exactly. That's like an actual scaling.
Yeah, that is actually, yes.
Yeah. That is good.
Yeah, if we can solve the main problem with his kit, which is his scaling, he would actually be a fine.
How good are you with macros? Because you can technically macro a Dragon Strike after every hit of his E skill. He can do E jump plunge, E jump plunge, E jump plunge. If you are very skilled with macros or a god.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. Maybe D-Luke isn't that bad after all, if you can plunge.
Yeah, when people found out about Dragon Strike, the first, like, they felt like he enabled a whole different character.
It is simply just too hard to do to ever be useful.
Yeah, let's all hope that we get a Claymore that buffs his jump height in the future.
You know, you could play VV with Venti and Farina.
Is that unironically his best team now? Do you want to calc it?
I can tell you it's definitely not better than Farina Aeon.
Oh, I want to ask a very interesting question, I think. I got this question under my latest Noel video, which basically said, did you assume booking in between the charge attacks with Noel to just turn the charge attack into a permanent charge attack until the stamina ends? And I didn't.
It is something you should do if you're on Red Hornstone Thresher. If you're not specifically on Red Hornstone Thresher, you want to do normal attack spam.
That was a red on calculation. Yeah. But would you assume that in your in a sheet you make, like the booking, to exploit, I guess, the long charge attack?
Well, for the long charge attack specifically, I don't know if I would calc it, but it's something I would do in practice if it was necessary.
Yeah, it saves you some seconds, so it's a DPS gain from a rotation perspective.
I think you would. It's not exactly difficult to do, or like unrealistic to expect someone.
The fact that you only have to do it once is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it makes sense. What you wouldn't calc is, I'm not gonna finish that. Never mind.
You mean booking to save energy?
No, booking to cheat swap timer. Did you know the swap timer ticks in the book, so you can get sub-second swaps? If you book every time you do an action, you can save so much time per rotation. That is the extreme example. The other extreme example for booking is the timer doesn't sync correctly. So what actually happens in the game is not reflected on the in-game timer. So if you spam the book, you can save minutes per chamber. You can save 10 seconds happens in 3 seconds on the timer.
Yeah. Wait, we all saw the 12-second Magokenki speedrun, yeah?
Yeah.
Even though he's in animation for 16 seconds.
Me and book.
Book OP.
Regarding these technical, I guess, issues, the funniest to me was when the PMA, the boss, like during his invulnerability phase, there is
a
little small frame where if you deal damage, you can one-shot him before he enters the second phase.
They fixed that. They fixed it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was in a live when they found out, like the speedrunners, the Eula speedrunner, my friend, and it was totally random the way he found out. Like he just a delayed Eula burst in the rotation, and he died.
Nice.
Like, it was hilarious.
Yeah, I think I saw Silas do it at some point.
I saw Silas fish for it.
Yeah.
I never did it myself because it's chamber 1, and I can't guarantee my crit. So I'm like, fuck this. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. The time frame to actually pull that off is absurd. Like it's 1 or 2 frames.
It was 3 frames, I think. Yeah, but
it was 3. Yeah, 3 frames.
But yeah, that is absurd. It's awesome. They fixed it, unfortunately. So it doesn't matter now. Something I complain about a lot with boss design is HP gates. They're terrible. If your boss does an HP gate, bruh, it sucks. The best thing about the seahorse and the crab, and these are bosses I hate, is at least they don't have an HP gate.
That's true.
True.
Yeah. If you do enough damage, you can just kill it.
You can bypass it, or you can just not have to wait. When waiting is part of your optimal boss rotation, bruh. You gotta love it. Wait for Maku Kinki to get his ass off the ground. Wait for PMA to split. Wait for Weenut to pop up.
I'm gonna get hate for this, but out of all the stall bosses, I actually didn't hate Weenut as much as the others. Because at least it followed a set rotation. You know where and when it will pop up.
It's RNG, isn't it? Sometimes it goes to one side, sometimes it goes to the other. Okay, it's not. Okay.
It pops up exactly 4 times in 4 specific spots for most teams. And when you use Ayaka, it only pops up 3.
Yeah, because the cryo slows it down. I know.
Yeah.
That's another super stuff. What is cryo or slow things down? And you? Another thing I would complain about. Why is this a thing? What? Nothing else does this. Why does this do this?
Yeah. Doesn't Simon appear slower too if you apply it with cryo?
Yeah, Kenki gets up slower as well. It also changes the timing to dodge Kenki's hits.
How would you design a different, I guess, debuff for all of these elements?
I wouldn't have one because none of the other elements have a debuff.
Yeah, exactly. So you would either, if you had to do one for each element, what would it be?
They've already introduced like dot for corrosion, and like there's the damage over time tick from the pyro heralds.
I don't think it would make sense for it to do damage because cryo doesn't. Just a quality of life.
I mean, would you rather Electro stagger you like Electro Charge?
Oh, okay, never mind. Forget I brought anything up.
Because that's what it would have to be at that point. You just get randomly staggered.
Okay. Maybe not.
I'd rather not have elemental debuffs on my characters. Thank you very much.
That's true.
What if Hydro just made the enemies slippery and they just fell over and got stunned?
What if Hydro made enemies non-knockbackable? Like, yeah, just I don't like the debuffs. I'm glad. I'm glad there aren't more, but I think it's weird that we even have one.
Yeah. That's true.
Oh, have you seen Uncle Apple's leak? Regarding...
Now I'm scared.
Regarding allegedly, we've got leaks for the Cloud Retainer, Chiori, and Arlecchino. Butterfer, do you read Chinese?
I do read Chinese, yes.
Would you like to read this?
Okay,
I will send you the image. Live translation from...
Alright, let's do this. Okay, so for Cloud Retainer... okay, she is a strong milker, or a strong wet nurse. And... applies poison? I don't know what that means. Okay, so for E-skill, short press is a short dash. And you can do it in mid-air, which is really cool. Long press on the E skill lets you fly, and it strengthens some kind of attack. And the Q is a domain expansion. It is a coordinated thing with the on-fielder, and it overheals the entire team, which is very nice.
Overheals?
Yeah.
Roman Tenkai.
Ryuiki Tenkai.
Yeah.
And then Chiori is a Geo support, obviously. She is supposed to be a signature for Navia.
Is that what it says, really?
Yep.
Wow.
Well, that's what the leaker says. I don't know if the leaker does.
No, is that what the text says? Does it actually call out Navia?
Yeah, Navia signature, or Navia specifically meant for Navia.
Cool.
Yeah, so E follows you, which is really nice, and it is a delayed attack. I assume something like Blood Blossoms. Q is a strong earthquake or a strong shake, and it shreds geo resistance allegedly, and it buffs you.
Oh, she's not a healer.
No, she's not a healer.
Some Navia support. Life.
Yeah.
Oh, is this the first question is this Uncle Apple reliable?
I don't know. I just saw people talking about this. I'm like,
Hey,
whatever can translate this, let's get him to do it.
everybody can write in this NGA's air forum. Like,
Oh, hi, Flip.
I can be called Uncle TGS and go right there and.
Uncle TGS. Uncle
Yes.
Butter. Uncle Strange.
Uncle Strange, the favorite leaker. Perfect track record, honestly.
Yeah. Perfect. All right,
Uncle
Arlecchino. Okay, I'm gonna continue with this. Arlecchino is an on-field DPS and has weird multipliers. So E is a short press on the E skill is a. What the hell does that say?
Life.
It's an AOE attack, I guess. And long press on the E skill is... Oh, it's an infusion. Long press on the E skill is an infusion, and it's a single target oriented thing. Q strengthens you. I assume it's...
Lament!
Well, yeah, exactly. And then... so Q strengthens you, and it's also an AoE mobbing thing.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting. And continuously, it drains your health, and charge attack is not the
drill.
Not the typical charge attack from a polearm character.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting from this is Arlecchino is an on-field DPS. Chiori is a geo support meant for Navia, and I assume maybe she's gonna apply to Ito as well. And Cloud Retainer is exactly as we expected, an animal healer that heals the entire team.
Remember when Newlet was teased to be a normal attack buffer for the Evolved Hydra element 6 days before the beta started?
Oh yeah, classic.
And now we get Arlecchino leaks.
Do you remember the classic Baiju was not a healer leak?
Yeah. I mean,
that was funny.
That was
no healer, bro.
Baiju is not a healer. Like the day before beta.
Oh yeah. People got so hyped about getting Farazan for Al-Haytham.
Have is Dendril Farazan.
People were so hyped, man.
Yeah.
They said Baiju was Dendro Yelan, and they said Cloud Retainer is Dendro Yelan. Everyone is Yelan. Did you know Dia has Fischl's Elemental Skill and Raiden's Burst?
Surely.
It's not wrong. It's not wrong.
Dia was 5-star Shenling for the longest time.
Nah, it's not wrong. She does have Fischl on her E. She does have Oz on her E skill, and she does have Raiden's Burst.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It's correct. Yeah. It's correct.
Yeah. You
Actually,
heard
combination of Fischl and Chincho.
Combination of Fischl and Chincho.
True.
Yeah, y'all heard it from Jay Stern. Dia equals Raiden.
All I said is Dia has Raiden's Burst.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to put words in your mouth to represent takes you don't actually have. To make
oh man, I love it when people come on my Discord and try to do that.
Yep. Seen it happen.
Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway. Continue.
Awkward silence.
Awkward silence. Assuming those leaks are real, ... How would we, what would these mean? I think everyone expects Leon or Cloud Retainer to be an animal healer.
Yeah.
That is like a genuine expectation at this point. That is what she will be, and everyone will be very upset if she is not that.
Yeah.
The market, it's free real estate. The market is open. Please take it. Please get rid of.
Yeah. What if she's an animal Farazan? Wait, hold up.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
I think when you look at how the Gene team cheat, if the Cloud Retainer does literally anything better, it's scary how good those teams could actually get.
Yeah.
Like, Gene is bad. It's a bad character by herself. And so, if Cloud Retainer is a good Gene, it's scary how good those teams can be.
I mean,
yeah.
What's the problem with that? The market's open. Do it. Yeah. Fucking do it.
Cool. That would be really nice. Like, imagine...
Still, she wouldn't power creep Gene because of Sunfire.
She wouldn't power creep Gene because Gene is free.
Yeah, Gene is free, a more accessible character. Even though I have a C6 Chi-Chi, I have a C6 Farina, not a single Gene.
Honestly, if I were you, I'd be happy about that.
Okay, listen. As much as Gene is a bad character,
no, it's about the Stardust! Star Glitter! You literally get more wishes!
I suppose, yeah, that's true.
You literally get more wishes back! What are you complaining about? You get 5 instead of 1!
That's true.
Or 2.
All I'm saying is that I would rather have a C6 Gene than a C6 Chi-Chi.
I would rather have C6 Nubilet than a 6 Aya, though.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yo, shots fired! What the fuck?
Shots fired. We don't know. We don't say that to limited 5 stars here, other than Albedo.
What do you mean? What do you have against 17 damage % when you have a crystallized shard inside Albedo's Z skill?
On your on-field character.
What's the problem with that, huh? What do you mean that's not worth $2,000?
That's true. Yeah.
Klee also has a classic C6. It's 10 damage %.
10 damage. Hey, at least it's to your entire team this time.
The problem is it's less than Pyronados or the Shuggling and Bennett C6 in terms of damage %. The 4 stars give 15 Pyro.
Yeah.
Or Junglie's Constellation 6 ruining Hutao.
No, it's Junglie's Constellation 6 just doesn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I guess it's proven now. 1.0 4 stars. It's proven now. 1.0 4 stars are better than 5 stars.
They are better than C6 5 stars.
Yes, in fact.
100%.
100%.
Speaking
of that, I think I'm actually gonna milk this and make a video on Xingqiu versus Yelan versus Farina. What do you want me to talk about? What should I fish? What should I fish?
The trade-offs between Yelan and Xingqiu are the same trade-offs between Yelan and Farina.
I think the first really great Constellation 6 character we got is Ganyu, right? The 5 star between the 5 stars.
I would argue that...
Don't say child.
Honestly,
Child C6 is shit, but like...
I'm actually going to say Klee. I'm actually... Klee is a very good C2, and if you do play Klee DPS, C4 is good as well.
Yeah, but Constellation 6.
Okay, then technically, if you just want to talk about Constellation 6s that C play today, it's debatably Venti.
Okay, for DPS characters, I think. Because Venti is a Venti.
He's just he's a very niche support, yes. But he's useful in C6 speedrun specifically for his C6.
Yeah. I think TGS was referring to DPS characters, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
actually, I completely ignored Venti in my thought process entirely. But yeah, is a case.
I think we all did.
It's just so forgettable now.
Yeah. I would argue that even though Child C6 is useless...
His C5 is great.
Because C5 is great, and the fact that when you have like a C6 or C2 R5 Kazuha and a C6, I don't know, Misflitter Bennett, you're still able to meet the damage thresholds to one-shot shit with Child. So I think he's still fine as a C6 speedrunning character.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Ganyu was probably the first Constellation 6 5-star DPS we got, where the Constellation 6 really felt massive.
Yes, absolutely. She's the first one with an actual good C6.
Mhm. Then we got Xiao.
Lament!
Was Constellation 6 was at first really hyped, then it got really infamous because of how hard it is to control.
But you know, the thing I used to do this thing. Whenever I would speak to someone who had multiple C6, I'm like, whoa, do you have C6 Xiao? And they'd always be like, yeah! And the next question I would ask is, how often do you play him? You could do the same thing with Eula like a year or 2 years ago. I don't know who you would do that with today. Maybe Wanderer?
I remember when the calculations for Constellation 6 Xiao started popping up and people were angry about the power creep it will bring. Like, this Constellation 6 is just the most massive damage increase ever. And in theory it was like 150% better or something.
That's funny.
Do you have an opinion on the lag switch bug fix?
Oh my
From this update. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure.
Okay, there was a bug where if you turned off the internet after plunging, Xiao could use his C6 in single target.
Oh, I didn't have to turn off the internet to do that. It just drops off by itself.
Well, yes, this was a bug that people were trying to abuse, where they would turn their internet off and on again after every single plunge to use Xiao C6.
Maybe if I had Xiao C6, I would have used it unintentionally.
They fixed it this update. They fixed
Yeah.
But this was a real bug. I love like the turn off your internet bugs. You could kidnap Thoma doing that from his trial back in the day.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
Kidnapping Yoimiya bug was also really funny because that one didn't even involve turning off the internet. You just got on a boat and ran away. You just got...
I wouldn't mind running away on a boat with Yoimiya.
Yeah, the way the kidnapping Yoimiya bug worked was like you brought the boat to the island where they gave you trial for Yoimiya. You immediately hop in the boat and just drive away and it wouldn't send you back. You can take Yoimiya anywhere. You can take... the Tomo one was you go into the Kamisato Manor, you turn off your internet, you walk back out, and then turn your internet back on. And suddenly Tomo was in your party and you could take him anywhere. Yo.
How good would Xiao C6 be if it just by default worked in single target?
Double his damage.
Yeah.
Would it be better than C6 Wonder?
He'd be more comparable, C6 to C6.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Xiao's C6, just in theory, it compensates for all the other Xiao constellations being shaded. Like, just theoretical damage. That was the trade-off. You get 0 damage increase from Constellation 0 to Constellation 5, and then Constellation 6, you get this golden treasure.
C1 is okay. C1's actually pretty good.
C1's fine.
I gotta give him C1.
But C2
it's usable.
C2 doesn't do anything. C4 it gets more flack than it should probably get. It is an EHP increase, especially when you're under 50, which is when you subjectively need it more.
Here's the thing, though.
It is technically useful, whereas you might die. You might have died if you didn't have it in a lot of scenarios.
Well, okay, that's one way of looking at it. I think the way I look at it is that his best team right now is Farina. And what does Farina do? Makes you do more damage when you take damage. So EHP is actually bad because, or damage reduction, excuse me.
No, Farina does not drain you under 50%.
Actually, that is true. Yeah. Wait, no, but she doesn't. It's not all about draining. It's about the fact that if you take damage from the enemy.
Okay, if you're at 50% HP and you're taking damage from enemies in this abyss, you're fucking dead.
That's true. I don't know where I was going.
You're a goner.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really funny.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Genuinely, Xiao C4 gets a bit more flack than it should probably get. It's not that bad. It's at least useful. Unlike C3 before C6 or C2, at least C4 has an effect that you will notice.
That is true. I guess it's just that players will never want to pay for defensive utility on a constellation. It just feels bad.
It does feel bad.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you like what they did with the constellations on Baiju, for example?
The ones where he becomes not a character?
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah. I think the C2 is a very good concept. They should do it more often.
You never swap into this character and get their full benefit?
Yep.
His C6 is also part of that, by the way.
Well, C6 is just damage, no?
Yeah, it's just damage, but it also counts for the C2. I think the C2 counts for the C6.
Oh.
So he does damage without ever swapping into him if you have C6. I love the concept. I like it. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
Especially since C6 teams are running into more and more field time problems.
Is that a better take at healer and shielder constellations than what we got before? I hope they do need more.
Yeah.
We've been getting a lot of these C6s, Farina, Nahida, Yelan. These are field time using C6s. Or if you want to use their C6s, you have a limited field time window, specifically for Nahida and Farina. Being a 10-second window for Nahida and Farina feels really bad when you are short on field time in your teams.
Mm-hmm.
Or you don't have field time available to go around.
Yeah, that's true.
So in the sense that you never have to swap into Baiju for whales, that is useful. Because it makes it easier to use Nahida C6 without facing DPS loss.
Yeah.
Or like weirdly DPS neutral stuff.
Flip, you are unbelievably based.
How do you feel about Nahida, Farina, and Yelan all having like the same C6? But with half the window to use it. And Farina's also has an additional effect.
Wait, TGS, you go first.
How do I feel about? Sorry, maybe I didn't understand the question. Them together.
So Nahida has the same C6 as Yelan, if you did not know.
Okay. Yeah.
Nahida's C6 lasts 10 seconds after her burst. Yelan's lasts 20.
Okay.
So the amount of time you have in your rotation to use Nahida and Farina's C6s is half the window. Do you have an opinion on that?
I never thought of it.
Okay, well, it's having Yelan and Farina C6. It's definitely something I could comment on.
Yeah.
I'll let you go.
Yeah, I personally don't have Yelan C6, but I've seen people play it for the past 2 years now. I know exactly how it feels. And I do personally have Farina C6. I will say, I personally use Farina C6 a lot just for the healing. For like the 2 normal attacks before and after you cast your burst. And that already feels plenty for me, like for what I want to use it for.
Yeah.
But when I do want to use it for damage, yeah, as you said, you typically want to cast Farina stuff first, and then Yelan stuff, and then Kazuha. That's just an example. And by the time you come back, you sometimes just don't get the full 6 normal attacks.
Yeah, or like you get none of them. Or you get...
Yeah, it can be a little bit annoying.
Yeah, it's definitely something I've noticed, and like kind of just like bruh. That being said, at least Farina C6 having the additional effect, which is the healing, so it's not just 4 damage like Yelan's, is great. Specifically, what I say about Farina C6, Farina with no downside, Yankee with no brim, I see no problem.
Yeah,
I think if you want to play Farina as the main and only damage dealer on the team, it sucks. But for the concept they were going for, so Farina being still not an enabler, but the rotation starter of a team.
What do you mean by it sucks?
No, not being able to backload the.
Okay, not being able to just like take your time and use it. Yeah.
Frina sucks in that role. Not being able to backload.
Yeah.
I think it fits the concept they were going for.
I find it a lot easier to use Yell on C6. Yell on C6 is incredibly forgiving because of that 20-second timer. Even at the end of your rotation, you can just unload the shots. In most cases.
And I did notice that if you do want to use C6 Farina for like vape speedrun stuff, you can't use the Bennett Kazuha Xiangling team, because by the time you do the normal international rotation, when you come back, the C6 is gone.
You got nymphed.
Yeah.
You got nymph streamed.
Literally.
That's funny. The funny thing is, like, regarding the speedrun. Yeah, if you do the setup where you E-skill at the start of the rotation, it's you get Gualbot place, Kazuha burst, and then you have to use Farina's combo there in its entirety. If you miss a second, you lose the final hit.
Yep.
That's it. That's all you get. That's also, if the enemy is not dead, that's like all your damage. You can, like, the summons can clean up a little bit, but not much.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I just use C6 Farina as a healer.
Yep.
It just feels amazing.
I use her as the healer because I just think it's a bit more useful. I put out a YouTube poll the other day regarding, do people like pulling support constellations to DPS constellations?
Yeah, I actually feel like characters like Risley, Ayaka, and Ganyu benefit a lot more than some of the others from Farina C6, or because you can use Kazuha and Shenhe now instead of having to worry about Charlotte and her bullshit.
Yeah. Farina, Kazuha, Shenhe, Constellation 6, and Risley is ludicrous to me. Ludicrous.
Interestingly, like, the overall consensus was Constellations on support versus DPS, which is not what I expected. To be completely honest, I expected more people to say they prefer DPS constellations. Like Ayaka, C2, C4, Nuvilet, C1, C2, C3, Hutel, C1, Raiden, C2. Instead of, like, Yelan, C1, Yelan, C2, Farina, C1, Farina, C2, C3.
You mean the poll you made on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Just so a comment about it, like, this question needs to be more specific. And probably it does.
The example let's say Constellations on support, Farina constellations, Constellations on DPS, Nuvilet constellations. Just for simplicity's sake. Let's see.
I think that comment was a jab at J-Stern, because he says, I want your question to be more specific all the time.
Well, if you compare Nuvilet and Farina, getting Farina's Constellation 1 basically makes up for the damage increase you'd get with Constellation 1 on Nuvilet, and on top of that, you get it on the whole team, and for all the teams you want to build. So
yep, that's my perspective. I would much rather wail on support characters like Yela and Farina, Kazuha, Nahida.
Kazuha, for example, the Constellation 2 is more questionable, I guess, because some speedrunners argue that the burst, you don't always use the burst in a speedrun, only in a room. So I think it's more
the speedrun is a little irrelevant. Because the question is, am I meeting the exact DPS threshold without needing to burst? If so, I will not burst, because I do not need the damage. It's still more damage. It's still...
It is, but if you think of Nahida's Constellation 2 or Farina's Constellation 1, they're just more very versatile, I guess.
Sure. In teams where you can use Kazuha C2, it's very much worth using on paper.
There is this argument between Freedom Sworn and Kazuha.
There is also Freedom Sworn, yes, I was about to say. 20 attack percent, 16 damage percent from normal charge plunge. Doubles with R5, 40 attack percent, 32 normal charge plunge. 32 normal charge plunge and 40 attack percent is a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, there was this debate between the Constellation 2 and Freedom Sworn, and then Xephos joined the conversation as well.
Xiphos is great. Xiphos is prohibitively hard to get and expensive. I have tried to get Xiphos refines twice. I have an R2 Xiphos, I have an R2 lamp, and I have an R2 key. That was across 2 different banners, by the way. I did not pull on the lamp key banner.
I think that's the one thing I have higher than you. My Xiphos is R3.
Nice! How many keys and lamps do you have?
One.
I have 2 of both. For trying to chase Xiphos.
That's tragic.
My weapon banner luck in a nutshell, man. I had actually the same luck on Wavebreaker's initial banner with Wavebreaker Homa. I wasn't even intentionally pulling for Wavebreaker. I got R6 Homa and R6 Wavebreaker.
I got a question. How do you feel about the new Battle Pass weapons 3 or 4 months in?
They're great. With some exceptions.
Yeah.
Specifically, Wolffang, Sacrificial Jade. Those 2 specifically are just incredible. Specifically for Alhaitham and Yvelet. I like that we have very purpose-built Battle Pass weapons for specific new characters.
Which means that
I like that hyper specificity. We also know regarding if we were to get a polearm character, they probably want a vape.
Yeah, exactly. A vape DPS polearm.
A vape pyro DPS polearm character. I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that the Battle Pass weapons are so specific. I wonder if we'll get another set next region.
Yeah. This means that possibly in the teams where Hu Tao just can't be sub 50, we have a new definitive best in slot 5-star weapon.
What character?
For Hu Tao, Arlecchino's signature.
Yeah.
A vape.
Oh, possibly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
Jay Stern, R5 or R6 time, baby.
Bruh.
Okay, my take on it is I like the Claymore, the Sacrificial Jade and the Wolffang. I think the Polyarm is decent. I don't
really, you don't have that much of a high opinion on Ballad of the Fjords.
Huh?
You don't have a high opinion on Ballad of the Fjords?
I think it's pretty decent, but maybe it has a few. It is worse in comparison to Wolffang, so I wouldn't put on that tier to me.
I think it depends what character you look at.
For example, on Utao, I think it's worse in comparison to Oma than Wolffang is in comparison to Jade Cutter or the Foliar. Foliar.
Specifically regarding Foliar, the Homa Fjords difference, I'm pretty sure there's a bigger difference between Wolffang and Lo-Fi. I'm fairly certain.
It was neck and neck with the Jade Cutter in my calculations for Alhaitham.
Yeah, it is. R5 should be slightly better than R1 Jade Cutter for Alhaitham.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jade Cutter is like 8 to 10% behind Lo-Fi.
And now that I think of it, I had the R5 Fjords at the same level of Scarlet of Sands with Utah as well. So maybe I'm underestimating it a bit here. But
the main thing I don't like about Battle of the Fjords is you can't play double pyro, double hydro is a weird restriction.
Yeah. That's so grief.
It's more grief than it probably should be. Because it's a weapon that's basically meant to have no conditional. I think. Yeah. I think it's not meant to have a conditional.
But I don't understand the Claymore, and I just dislike the bow.
Let me reread I know the Claymore. The Claymore is very good when you get both buffs. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, but when do you get those?
When you're getting attacked by really aggressive enemies that apply elements to you. And you're playing Bennett. That's the best I've got. Yeah.
If you don't die.
Wait,
Bennett.
Well, I mean, if you're playing a Geo character, you're not going to die. If you're playing...
Wait. Does Gene trigger this?
No, it specifically says Cryo, Electro, or Dendro. Nice try. Nice.
Bruh. Another Gene L.
Is the buff Snapshot Beto? What? You mean does Beto Snapshot the buff? I guess, sure, probably.
I want a snapshot.
It says all elemental damage bonus, so yes, she should be able to snapshot it.
Yeah.
It doesn't say generic damage percent or something like that. Sign of the Blazing Sun. After a charge attack, its opponent's Sunfire Arrow will send opponent hit, dealing damage. Heart Searer effect. The opponent damaged by said arrow for 10 seconds. Opponent's affected by Heart Searer. Take 28% more damage from charge attacks every 10 seconds. This weapon is not bad for Lenny. Which is definitely who they designed it for.
Yeah.
Yeah, but...
I don't know how hasty I would...
apply to a single target.
Yeah. The debuff is just a single target. It also just... Song of Stillness is a very good bow. It's the Fontaine craftable.
Yeah.
And you also have the prototype bow from...
Nah, fuck that weapon. No, that thing's terrible. No, I'm sorry. No. Never use it. Most enemies don't even have heads anymore.
That's true.
I think you're on some straight copium if you say you have to use Prototype Crescent over Song of Stillness.
Yeah.
Let me read the Song of Stillness effect for you. Why am I even doing this? I'll just do this on Amber.
Yeah. I remember back in the day, people used to recommend Prototype on Child.
Yes, they still do actually.
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
After the wearer is healed, they do 32 more damage percent for 8 seconds. This can be triggered even when the character is not on the field. It is a 510 base, 41.3 attack percent bow. In my opinion, this weapon is just better than Prototype Crescent. It's also a lot more consistent. If you're like playing Linny or Ganyu with Farina or like anyone, and you're looking for a free-to-play weapon option, this is the one. You don't have a weapon for Fischl? This is the one. Do not use Prototype Crescent. It is a waste of your resources.
I remember calculating it on this one on a lot of characters. I don't remember how good it was compared to Viridescent Veneer, for example, for Child, but I think it was better. Like, it was the...
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah. Well, I remember hearing a take back in the day that Viridescent Hunt was Child's best weapon, period.
For the grouping.
Because you get the grouping.
Yeah.
So you get the quadratic scaling, baby.
No.
I think it's really fun. I like that. I think it's a fun little thing that Viridescent Hunt is a weapon that has a grouping passive instead of a damage ability. Or a damage passive.
Yeah. I mean, I did use it for a while on Child.
I think we should see more weapons like that. I think it'd be cool if we saw a 5-star weapon that was like, when using your elemental scale, the heavens rain from above, grouping enemies in a circle. I think that'd be a fun take, especially since they are really weird about giving us support 5-star weapons. A character like Baiju, who by all rights should have had one, has a fucking personal damage weapon that isn't even good. Yes, I am salty about my R4 Jade AMA.
Oh no.
I guess the issue with this weapon for Child is getting the buff before you actually use the burst. Because if you use Bennett, then you're at full HP at the start of the rotation. And
even if you never use the passive, it's the same as Prototype Crescent with no headshot.
Prototype Crescent and Child is out of question bad, but just compared to Viridescent.
Okay, then yeah.
For first rotation, Viridescent.
I specifically call out the weapon for characters like Linny, who do drain their own HP, or are played with Farina. Tartaglia is not necessarily one of them. But a lot of people will play Fischl with Farina, or even just Fischl in general. Fischl heals herself. What, do you have C4?
C4.
Yeah, C4.
Yeah. I remember this. I think Flip was talking about it when he was glazing Fischl, as always. The C4 Fischl that heals you a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Like literal free proc for Song of Stillness, even if your team has no healer in it. Literal. It's just a really nice bow. I like that craftable a lot. Similarly, the craftable sword, Finale of the Deep, is very good.
Yeah.
That one gives you a bunch of attack. The Catalyst is Wanderer's best free-to-play weapon. The Catalyst is the same effect as Finale of the Deep. It's an attack weapon that gives you more attack. Wait, no. Doesn't the Catalyst give you damage %? I don't remember.
I think I saw damage % somewhere.
Catalyst. Blood Impurity. It is damage %. Yeah, it is. It's up to 24 damage %. It's generally like 18 for Wanderer. But yeah, this is Wanderer's best free-to-play weapon. Blood Impurity. If not, you can also look at the event weapon we got this update. Or last update.
Yeah.
There's the Claymore, was also good. Tidal Shadow.
Unfortunately, Claymores aren't very... Actually, can you use Tidal Shadow on Ito? Probably not.
No, you can use it on Navia, though.
That's true.
I
forgot about Navia. She's gonna be the first, I guess, real attack scaling Geo DPS.
Yeah. Besides
Sorry,
Ningguang.
Ningguang.
Bruh. Regarding the craftables, do you like the polearm? It's a support.
Yes, I like it a lot.
Who do you use it on? Mika?
Yao Yao.
Yao Yao. Oh yeah, that would work too. Rightful Reward. Rightful Reward is the HP main stat polearm that gives you energy whenever the wielder is healed.
I think it makes a lot of sense when you play Nilu Bloom and you don't need the Favonius on Yao Yao, so you just use that, and it's much better.
Yep. I think this will be really useful for Chevy as well, and Mika, Yao Yao. Like, this is a good weapon. This is a good
It's a great weapon.
Nice,
yeah. It is interesting that it's so different in the fact that it's not a DPS weapon like the other, like the rest.
Yeah.
But hey, it's cool. How's it compared to Fav on Mika? It's more energy gen for him, less overall, I believe, or less for the team.
More Mika energy, more healing.
More heal, obviously. Yeah, because it's HP main stat. If you play Yao Yao and Nilu, you should be based, play Candace, and run Dragon's Bane. Hog.
Dragon's Bane. People got true. Mika is so bad at proccing Fav, you might as well use Rightful Reward.
Okay, anyway. Counter argument, Cryo Resonance, 15% guaranteed crit rate.
Yeah, but you get one hit.
You can get two, do a normal attack.
Okay. Okay, bro.
Hello. Also, you should hold the on Mika, which is technically 2 hits as well. Yeah, except for the part where you swap off for the second before the second hit hits.
Yeah.
No, it would count as a multi-hit if you hit more enemies in one instance. Yes, that it would. But that is not the argument necessarily.
Yeah.
Nide crit. Nide crit.
Nide crit. Bro.
Oh, you know what? Here, you want some fishage? Or some bait? I've got some bait for you.
Yo.
Let me pull an image from Starboard. Alright, thoughts on this? I'll send the image to TGS as well.
Well, if it goes like Gojo, probably not.
Can I say something? So,
if it's no spoiler, you can see it.
It's not about Jujutsu Kaisen, it's just about Changeling. I feel like how much damage she does, like as a vape carry, has always been overestimated. However, like she's kind of still the only off-field character that actually applies pyro, and she does have a good C1 and a good C6, and that is always going to be relevant.
She has a good C3 and C4. Jeez.
No, I meant for like supportive utility, like C3, C4 for damage, obviously.
C3, like the supportive capability, is the spot where Shungling has the most holes, where she's the most replaceable. In my opinion.
Yeah, well, yeah, that is
Mostly,
true.
primarily because of the energy.
Yeah, I'm just saying that an off-field pyro character that actually does damage and applies pyro while giving you buff is always gonna be nice. Even like, I feel like seeing her or bat chesting her as this broken DPS is not gonna be very long lived. Or like even now, I think it's kind of misguided.
I think
But
it's dated.
yeah, I do think Xiangling is still a good character. Just for being able to do damage, like and buff pyro characters, like Linny, like Hotel.
Yeah. Regarding the free to play low invest bet,
Nah.
nah. You ain't got shit. Nah, you ain't
No.
nah.
Yeah, I don't think it's really a good idea or that good of idea to treat Xiangling as different than Yelan or Xingqiu. She is a support that does good damage. She's not your hyper carry that vapes like 2 million damage per rotation. That's just not how she works. Yeah. Actually, that is a good analogy. Xiangling is energy hungry pyro Yelan. Never thought of it that way.
Xiangling is kind of insane. Actually, it's 2 more billion.
Yeah. 2 more billion damage. Yelan hyper above international based.
Yeah,
Guys, I have to go.
okay. Take care.
Nice talking to you, man. I appreciate
Nice talking to you, dude.
your voice and the fact that you're very handsome.
Does anyone want to plug their socials at the end of the podcast correctly this time?
Okay, I have a Twitter, TGS, and I also have a YouTube channel, the Genshin Scientist YouTube channel. That's mine.
Yeah. I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/jsturn25. Also, sometime I also am simulcasting on YouTube if you prefer the YouTube viewer.
I just have a YouTube channel called butterfer0808. I post sometimes actually useful Genshin content like team guides and that kind of stuff. I also post bait that actually have more thought put into it than some other people would. Please go check it out.
Message. All right, thank you. Oh my god, finally! Everyone plug their socials. All right, take care. You guys have a nice day.
All right, love you boys.
Bye bye.
I'm gonna run to the bathroom.
Yeah. And no, Flip, I didn't forget about you.
Butterfer can talk to chat.
Hello, chat. How are you doing? Any questions for the man of the day? The guest? The Butterfer? What the if Arch is another on-field... Oh, Arlecchino is another on-field Pyro DPS. How do they plan to sell the other 10 Pyro on-field DPS? Oh no. What's the point of making that? Okay. She's gonna be another vape character, probably. I don't know. She's just another option among a sea of others. How much butter do you consume daily? I consume none. I haven't had butter for a year. Look at my banners. I made really mad. Oh, okay. Okay, Quartz. Oh shit, it looks great. Yeah, the second one is definitely better. It fits more. I like the green. I like the clouds. Yeah, I think it's just really good. And the profile pic, I like that one. Maybe, I don't know. Put my name somewhere on it. The profile picture, Quartz.